Welcome to Sustainable Packaging with Cory Connors. Today's guest is different than my normal guest. She is an author, and I'm very excited to introduce Ms. Anhely Millan. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for making some time. I'm impressed with your book. It's a children's book, Sustainability for Kids:
It
The
is, yeah.
World Behind Recycling with
Yes,
Mr.
yeah.
Bin. That's excellent.
Yes.
So tell us about it. Actually, let's start by your background a little bit. Where,
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
Yeah, look, I started my career in packaging 20 years ago. And I saw your recent post on
yeah.
congratulations on your 20 years
Thank you.
anniversary. Yeah, so I started my career in packaging as quality engineer, and then progressively moved to the innovation space and packaging development, and most recently working on sustainable packaging development and everything that is related to circular economy. So I joined a company who is leading in that space in Australia and New Zealand, and I work with them and the customers to deliver sustainable packaging innovation. So that's my background. Originally from Venezuela, moved to Australia 8 years ago, and yeah, so that,
How did you
that's
find
my
that
that's my
transition?
background.
How was that going from Venezuela to Australia?
Well, in a way, well, depending on the angle you see it. So, from yeah, culturally speaking, very different. So we needed to learn a lot of things, and starting with language. So my daughter, she came with zero English, and so she needed to go through the process from the professionals point of view. I thought Australia was going to be extremely more developed
Yeah.
than the developing countries, and it ended up being quite similar, not in a way, not in a bad way for Australia, of course, but
Yeah.
so Venezuela was pretty advanced, and I was surprised. So I worked in a company over there, excuse me, that it was pretty developed in terms of processes, and especially in the packaging space. So yeah, it was a good surprise in that way,
That's
actually.
great. Yeah. No, my company's based in Melbourne, Australia as well. So, or in Australia as well, I should say.
Okay.
So very cool. What motivated you to
Yeah.
write this book about packaging for children?
I think the main motivation was the lack of education at home when being exposed to the packaging environment, and the industry. My view was that packaging experts, they know what to do to be more sustainable.
Right.
The industry know what to do to be more sustainable. Government know to do what, everyone knows now how to implement it, and the infrastructure and all that sort of. But the common thing across was education at the office, education at home, education at school. So people want to do the right thing, but they don't know how to start. So I thought it was a good idea to not only target homes, so home and community, but starting with kids, because they are going to be the future. They are going to be the ones to sustain the planet
Yeah.
in the future. So, I thought, okay, well, this is a beautiful way to give back to the community all the knowledge and all the experiences.
I
Yeah,
agree. I
that's
agree.
the, yeah.
I was excited to read your book and share about your book because it's something that I'm passionate about as well. Are you finding that
And when you're
most? Go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say that when you're passionate about it, you put all the efforts and you make it simple. So the book is pretty simple,
Yeah.
and you, if you could see, the images are of course not accurate because they are for kids,
Right.
but it's a simple way to understand the processes. I'm just trying to look for the main page. That this is my favorite page.
Yeah.
So this one here, that shows all the sorting process in the materials recovery facility. It's kind of like showing in a simple way how it works, and yeah, it's just a simple way to give back to what you know.
I love it. Are you finding that
Yeah.
children are excited to be more sustainable and be a part of this?
Look, I see my daughter, like the reference I have is my daughter. So she's 12 years old, and she is always concerned about about how to look after, animals and how to preserve nature. And she gets, really mad at people that don't care about it. It's kind of like, I guess, yeah, I guess it's kind of like is they might not know the concepts, and that's the main reason also I wanted to write the book, but they in a way know more than adults, and definitely more than I knew when I was her age, and they are more aware of that. And so she sometimes comes to me and said, "Hey mom, is this bottle recyclable?" And I was like, it's interesting,
Yeah.
questions about it. I can see more and more schools bringing sustainability and environmental programs, and they have kids who champion activities just kind of to encourage the students to be more sustainable and to know more about it. So definitely yes, kids are more aware. I think they are very interested on understanding what to do and how to contribute. I think the main driver is concern, because they see and here in Australia, you have the outer the barrier reef, and there is a lot of information about how to preserve it, and how waste and plastic plastic on the ocean, etc., affects the environment. So they are concerned about it. So I feel like they are definitely other generation of change, and
Yeah, I
if
agree.
finding them very, very interested on learning more.
This podcast is brought to you by Corporate Image, a U.S. manufacturer of sustainable luxury packaging solutions. With innovative raw board box styles and precision-crafted 90-degree corners, Corporate Image's award-winning CI rigid box packaging line is unlike anything else. Learn more about their unique design and production capabilities at corp-image.com.
Yes. Well said. I interviewed one of my first interviews on the podcast was a company called Mermaid Straw. And one of their founders was from Australia. And he said that one of his classes was actually surfing in school. And as a surfer, he found it very important to take care of the ocean. And this is a common thread throughout this podcast, is people that spend time in nature or spend time in the water are very interested in making it as clean as possible for the future generations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you see more kids, wanting to be in different to my generation. I would say people wanted to be doctors,
Yeah.
engineers. Now they want to be, influencers,
Yeah.
and they want to be something different, but with a meaning. I mean, with a meaningful objective. So my daughter always says to me, Mom, it would be so cool, if I could go and travel and show all the nature, and so it's kind of like different minds, though, but more aware and interested on how to preserve the environment.
Yeah. When I
Yeah.
started making TikTok videos a couple years ago, my kids, I could see them like holding a phone up and be like, "Hey guys, this is," and it was just, it's the future, right? It's the present. But
It is. It is. It
anyways,
is the present. It's going to be the future, as sustainability is, and I think is you also need to take advantage of all those tools to land your message.
yeah, absolutely. We have to. It's exciting. Well, that's why I started this podcast, so people could learn about different
Yeah.
sustainable packaging,
It
and
makes
we can all share with each other the solutions.
yeah.
So it seemed like the
Yeah.
book focused really on, do you have intentions of writing another book someday about composting or reuse,
Yes.
reusable
Yeah.
packaging?
And it is kind of it is kind of the same. Like when I was writing this book, I had a notebook on the side, starting writing all the other titles.
Love it.
Definitely, yes. So the book focuses on recycling and all the processes behind recycling. So basically, what happens to the waste since you put it in the recycling bin until it becomes a new product again. So it's kind of like showing the whole process. But yeah, so my next book will be around the 3 R's before recycling. So
good.
so rethink, reduce and reduce and reuse, sorry.
Yeah.
And then a few more in the pipe about composting, about being sustainable at home. And I want to write another one around how to preserve the reef.
Oh, good. That's great. Yeah, one maybe a little bit more specific to oceanside communities. Yeah.
To
excellent.
oceans, yes. Yeah. All about how to be, or how to bring sustainability into our day-to-day activities, because that's the main objective of what I want to do. So I want to help not only kids, but also parents. Parents, while they read the books to the kids, they learn as well.
Yeah.
And so it's helping at home and providing, some sort of guidance on how to at least start to be more sustainable.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I was excited to learn that you offer discounts for like schools if they're going to buy it for a classroom or a whole school. Can you tell us about that? Is that available on the website or?
Yeah, so we are targeting, and this is one of my main objectives, the marketing campaign. So we're targeting primary schools, and the intention is just to help with their curriculum, because they have an environmental and sustainability before activities and curriculum. So they are trying to include, some practices in this at the school. So the intention is then, to bring and help them with, with these activities through the book. So for example, if they want to place large orders, they just need to send us an email. The information is in the website. So, and just let us know, I want 10 books, I want 20 books, and we have books already printed that we can definitely ship to them and be ready, available.
And what's the website, Anhely?
So social media, so website is sustainabilityforkids.com.au. That's the website. The Instagram account is at sustainabilityforkids_AU. And then Facebook and LinkedIn is Sustainability for Kids. So contact us through any of them. The website is still under construction because we want to, put a lot of information there, and is a process, especially my husband, who is the illustrator of the book.
Oh,
he
really?
wants to make sure that all the, yes. So he wants to make sure that all the images and everything, looks great. So it's taking a little bit of time to work on the website, but so the website has the link to the email, so you can straight away send us an email to us, and we'll take care of you.
That's excellent.
Available in other countries through Amazon.
Okay.
So US,
that's
UK,
where I bought it.
Canada,
Amazon.
and other countries, you find it in Amazon.
Well, that's wonderful, and thank you so much for writing this book. It's important to educate everyone, especially our kids, about sustainability so that they can get used to it. Right?
Indeed, it is. Yes, indeed. Yes.
So, well, thank you again for being on the show. Anything else that you wanted to tell us about before we sign off here?
So follow us in social media. We don't just sell the book. We also share content about, how to bring in sustainability or how to live more sustainable. So of course, if you want to buy the book, buy the book. But so it's not just about purchasing the book. Is also about all the content that we share in our social media. We have the LinkedIn page where we are going to be posting some events and things that are coming up. I have one event coming up with a school here in Australia. So we're going to make a video. So this girl is a, sustainability champion. So that sort of things we'll share in our social media. So just follow us, and it's just not, about the book, it's about the content that we will post in there. Yeah.
Well, keep up the good work. We appreciate it. And thank you so much. I'd like to
Thank you
thank,
so much for having me. Thanks.
of course, I'd like to thank Landsberg Aurora for sponsoring this podcast. I'd like to thank the listeners for listening. Please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you give it a review, let me know, and I'll send you some sustainable packaging stickers. All right. Thank you so much.